Hello, the title of this video is Site Setup Checklist for WordPress. The purpose of this video is to make sure that your site is set up correctly and that it shows on Google. This means that we want to configure every part of our site, and when we actually submit the site to Google, it crawls the website without any problems. Here are some things that we will discuss in this video. The things will be definition, the actual site setup checklist, additional settings and next steps. So let's start with the video. So the first thing we are talking about is what is site setup. Site setup in WordPress involves the creation and configuration of a website. It involves tasks such as selecting a domain name and hosting provider, installing WordPress, choosing a theme and adding posts and pages. These are some of the basic things that are involved in a site setup. There are many other things that we will discuss in the video which will come later, like themes and plugins. Now we will move on to the actual site setup checklist. So here are some things that we will be discussing in this video. The things will be the domain and hosting, theme, plugins, Google Search Console and Google Analytics. These are the basic performance tools that your site should have, and some extra analytics tools, site hierarchy and email. The first thing that we are talking about is domain and hosting. So when you're choosing a domain and top level domain, that is called TLD, they should be relevant to your business. So when we talk about domain, it can be like the best practice is that you should use your business name as your domain name. And when it comes to TLD, there are different types of TLDs. The most common one is the generic TLDs, which are .com, .net, .org and things like that. So you need to make sure that whatever domain and TLD you're choosing is relevant to you, your business and your users. The next thing is that you should choose hosting according to your business needs. There are different types of hosting like shared hosting, virtual private servers, dedicated hosting, cloud hosting. So you need to make sure that you are choosing a hosting that is actually relevant to your business needs. This means that if your website is small, then you can use something like shared hosting because you don't need to care too much about your traffic and server loads. But if your website needs are bigger, this means that if your website has many pages, like tens or thousands or maybe millions of pages, and you have a lot of media and videos, photos like that, then you may want to choose a different kind of hosting. So choose your domain and hosting that are relevant to your business needs. PS, I have actually made videos on both of these things before, so if you want to, you can check them out. The next thing that we are talking about is theme. A theme is a very important thing in WordPress. So here are some things that you need to take care of. So let's go through them one by one. First thing is that make sure the theme is responsive and fast. So you have to choose a theme that is responsive. This means that it can work on every single device and it is fast. The second thing is that don't choose a theme that requires many essential plugins to work correctly. There are a lot of themes that requires some sort of plugins. I think with Elementor you can add different plugins to make it work. There are some free plugins also, but it is not important that you have to add those plugins. So make sure that whenever you are choosing a theme, make sure that it doesn't require many essential plugins so that it should work. The next important thing is that you have to decide between free and paid themes. It is not a big issue if you are already planning on buying a paid theme, but if you are on a budget and you want something that is less cost or maybe free, so you have to choose a theme that actually meets your business needs. The last thing is that instead of relying solely on marketing hype, it is crucial to perform due diligence when selecting a theme. This means that you don't have to choose a theme when it is marketed a lot, because marketing is a basic thing and everybody wants that their theme should be the most downloaded one and their theme should be the most purchased one. But you have to do your due diligence when it comes to choosing a theme for your website. The next thing that we are talking about are plugins. Plugins are very important for a site like WordPress because it enables you to do many more things than just your theme. And here are some things that you need to make sure when you are purchasing or maybe downloading a plugin. And the first thing is that choose a plugin that has good reviews and is from a reputable company. I'm saying this because there have been a lot of cases when people's site have been hacked because they downloaded a plugin from an unknown source, or that plugin didn't have a lot of reviews and it is from a fishy kind of company. So this is important that you download a plugin that is from a good company and has good reviews on it. And another thing that you can see from the plugins page is that you can see how many times it has been downloaded. It is also a good sign that this plugin has been downloaded many times and you can download and trust this source. The next point we are talking about is that ensure that the plugin gets frequent updates. This is more from a security standpoint because if the plugin gets frequent updates, it makes sure that your site is secure from all the hackers out there. The next thing is that don't bloat your site with many plugins. Plugins can actually bloat your site very fast because you don't know like how many plugins you're going to install, and then you install 25 different plugins and then your site is slow and then you wonder why your site is slow. So that's why you don't have to bloat your site with too many plugins. It will actually hinder with your site speed. The next thing is very obvious one, that you have to choose a plugin that is compatible with your WordPress version. I think it informs you that this plugin is not from your WordPress version. So I guess you have to check on that. The last two things are again very common sense kind of things, that you have to remove unnecessary plugins from time to time. It can happen that you have downloaded 3 different plugins and 6 months later you are not using them. So it becomes essential that you actually remove them because they are not doing anything and just sitting on the site and increasing page speed, and this will not help you or your users. So it is important that you remove unnecessary plugins from your site time to time. And the last one is the fewer plugins the better. It is a good practice to have fewer amount of plugins on your site because obviously, like we talked before, it will affect your page speed. Now we are talking about some essential performance tools. These are tools that are free and they are provided by the big guys, and you can actually see a lot of data here. I am sure you guys are already familiar with these tools. So the most common tools are the Google Analytics and Google Search Console. It is like the basic thing that you can add to your site. So in Google Analytics, you have to migrate to GA4 because the UA is shutting down. Another two another tools that I will talk about is Bing Webmaster Tools and the Href Webmaster Tools. It is no longer a option to not have your site on Bing Webmaster Tools because of the Bing chat, and people are actually searching on Bing. It is not dead yet and it is not going to be. So you have to, it is like optional thing. You can do it, but it's not mandatory. And the last thing that we are talking about is Href Webmaster Tools. I think a lot of you are already familiar with this, but those of you who are not familiar, Href gives you an option to get a lot of data from your site from their Webmaster Tools. So it is a very handy tool, and I think it gives a lot more data than the Search Console. Again, all of these tools are optional, but I think many sites sign up for things like Google Analytics and Google Search Console. So these are the basic tools, but you can sign up for all of these if you want. I think I have signed up for all of these tools, and all of these tools gives you a different kind of data. So I think it is very helpful. Next we are talking about is the extra analytics tools. So these tools can be like you want to measure performance and you want to track every single user and their activity, and you want to make funnels on your site or something like that. In those cases, tools like Hotjar, Hubals or Posthook can help you. And apart from these, you can buy tools like Ahrefs or SEMrush to boost your SEO. It is not important. Basically all of this is optional. You can buy them or sign up for them if you want to. It is just that you will get extra analytics from what you are getting in the two free tools like Google Search Console or maybe Ahref Webmaster Tools. And when I say you can buy Ahrefs or SEMrush, it doesn't only give you the data, it will actually give you a whole lot more data than these other kind of tools. They will help you with everything like your keyword research and competitor research and social media and backlinks and things like that. It is optional, and if you want to sign up for any of these, feel free to. Another thing that I want to talk about is site hierarchy. So these are some things that you can follow. So the first thing is determine the type of pages on the site. It can be as basic as like if you're a service kind of website or maybe you are a SaaS website. So you may want to determine what kind of pages your site will have, because this will ensure that your site follows a good architecture. So this is the second point, that ensure you follow a flat site architecture. You don't want to make pages and pages and pages and then one page is orphan and you users or search engines can't reach it. So you don't want to make a site structure like that. And the next point is again similar to these 2 points, that establish a site hierarchy that facilitates navigation for both crawlers and users. You don't want your users or crawlers to get lost in your website and they don't know where they are, and this one page is separate from the whole site and they are not able to find it. So you don't want to be making an experience like that for them. The next thing is set up a logical URL structure. We will talk about URL structure in upcoming videos. The thing that you may want to know right now is that you have to use the subfolders and maybe subdomains correctly so that your site structure is logical. The next point is that you have to include important pages in the navigation. Navigation mainly is in the footer and the header, and you may want to include the important pages of your site in the navigation so that both users and crawlers can find those pages and find what they're looking for on your website. The last point is about create relevant categories and tags. Tags are not as important, but if you are writing blogs or something, then both of these can work, because they both of these only work on blogs and not pages. You can actually put categories and tags on pages, but you have to install a plugin and you don't want to bloat your site with too many plugins. So they only work on posts, like the blog posts, articles, whatever you say. And you need to make sure that you are creating appropriate categories, because you don't want to create too many categories. Just create only the ones that are relevant and are logical according to you and your users. The last thing that I'm talking about is email. This is very optional. It is not important that you may want it. So the first thing is setting up an email at this point is a great step, as it will help you sound and appear more professional. Obviously, you don't want an email that will be like preeti@gmail.com. It will not sound professional. So if I have email like hello@packted.com, it will sound more professional, that I am from a legit company. So that will make you sound professional. If you are making an affiliate site or something, it doesn't matter much, but it is a great practice to do. Next is that it is advisable to keep your domain hosting and email separate as a good practice. This is more from a security purpose, that it is not important that you have to make them different. If you want, you can keep all of them at the same place, but yeah, most of the people make them separate. So this is a thing. Email is totally optional, so it's not something that you have to do, but it is a great thing that if you set up at this point. Now we may want to look at some additional settings before we can actually go and submit our site to Google for crawling and indexing. So these things are like the logo, the site name, tagline, favicon, the blog. Blog is optional. If you want to create blog, then it is okay. and the home page and the permalinks. It is not just homepage. I'm not just talking about homepage. I'm talking about every single page on your site, and it should have content. Like, you don't want to be make a single page and then go and index, ask for Google to index it. The things that are very basic are like logo, the site name, the tagline, the favicon. All of these things will appear in the search, and because Google is showing the site names in this search, so you may want to include that. And the blog and the homepage are, these are not just two pages. It is like, if you want to if you want to include a blog, then maybe you can add 2 3 pages already, so that when you go and index the pages, it will actually have some content on these pages. And your homepage is like, you have to make your homepage logical, and your other pages like your services or product pages. And your permalinks is basically the URL structure. We were talking about permalinks, right? So here in WordPress, you can actually go to settings and permalinks, and you can actually define what kind of permalink you want. I think I have post name as my permalink, so you can go and you can configure what kind of permalink you want. So this is what it looks like. The last thing that we are talking about is, you have to make sure that this option is turned off, search engine visibility. When you turn on this section, the whole site will be no index, and the search engine crawlers won't be able to see the site. So when you are actually done making your site, make sure that this option is turned off, or better, you don't even have to turn this option on for any reason. So make sure that this option is turned off. This is found in settings, reading, and search engine visibility. So the last thing that we are talking about are the next steps. After you have your site ready, it's time to get the site index. Like I told you before, you have to untick that option that was discourage the search engines from crawling your site. And you have to make appropriate social media link. These are mainly the foundational links of your site. If you want Google to trust your site, then you can make the social media links. Make social media links on the site that you are actually going to post. You don't have to make links on your site just for the sake of it. You can make links. Maybe you are going to post on Instagram, or maybe on Twitter, or LinkedIn. So make appropriate social media links. And the other thing is that you can submit your site to Google via sitemap. Sitemap is not a mandatory thing, because Google can crawl and index your site in a fine manner. But if you are skeptical and you don't want to be risk anything, you can make a sitemap. There are many plugins like Rank Math and Yoast which can make sitemap for you, so you don't have to do anything. And I think in WordPress, robots.txt also comes by default. Like, you don't have to make it or something. Plugin will make sitemap for you, and then you can submit it to Google. Or you don't have to. Like, it is an optional thing. And then you can start optimizing and building from there. Like, there you have it. These were the basic steps that you need to take, and then it's fine. Now you can do your SEO and your content and everything from there. And this brings us to the conclusion. The first conclusion is, setting up your site is more important than you think. It is very much important, because if you like choose a wrong theme at this point, and 6 months down the line you are thinking that this theme is actually bloating the site too much, this theme like increase your page speed or something like that, then you will have to do a lot of changes, lot of things to actually change the theme on your site. And same goes with plugins. You don't want any fishy kind of plugins on your site and your SEO tools or things like that. So it is very important that you set up your site in a correct and logical way. The next is, conduct thorough research on aspects like theme, plugins, and performance tools before making any purchases. It is very obvious one that you have to do your proper research when you're buying themes, plugins, or any kind of tools for your site, any kind of SEO tool, or maybe any kind of analytics tools. Please do your proper research before buying anything and don't fall into marketing tactics, because let's face it, everybody is trying to sell their tool. It is your job to think about everything and research about everything, and make sure that all the important settings are in place. The settings we talked about are like these kind of settings: the URL structure, the permalinks, and things like that. So you have to make sure that all of the settings are in place and that your site is not, discouraged from search engines to crawl it. And after adding the content, don't forget to submit your site to search engines. This is and kind of an optional step, because crawlers can actually see your site, but if it is a new site then it can be a little tricky. So yeah, you can submit your sitemap and things like that, and Google will crawl your site fine. So these are the things that I wanted to talk about. And yeah, that's it for this video. This video is actually a part of series where I'm making a course on everything related to making a new site. So stick around for more videos, and thank you.